onto the Tapu Koko. They're ones we see quite a lot, and it'll be lovely to see a Gigalith on stream once again, although hopefully this one will connect with its moves, unlike the one that I used to love.
Yeah, and then as for Rob's team, we're actually seeing a little bit here, because his team is a little bit more... I wouldn't say it's crazy or anything, because we've seen similar teams do well at previous tournaments. For example, Barry Anderson used a very similar team at the Bilbao Special Championships, making it into the top 8 there. But for Rob, we're actually going to see the Smeargle, the Tapu Lele, Arcanine, Cortana, Drifblim, and Circuitry. So it's going to be one of those very hyper-offensive teams, battling it out against one of the more solid and taking things slow teams. So yeah, that in itself is already kind of interesting. But then adding the dynamic of having the two players who are really, like, they're established in the scene, I would say, but neither of them had this particularly incredible achievement. Of course, winning at Special Championships is already very, very nice for Rob, but I know that he's like hungry for more.
Definitely, those two up-and-coming players are going to get ready into their Game 1. Just to recap briefly on the teams again, for Rob, we have got the Smeargle, Tapu Lele, Arcanine, Cortana, Drifblim, and Circuitry, and Stephen has opted for Cortana, Porygon 2, Arcanine, Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, and Gigalith. I mean, on Rob's side of the field there, that Smeargle can be a proper tricky Pokemon to counteract. You never know what move it's going to be going for. Is it going to be the Fake Out, Follow Me? I mean, it can learn almost everything, so Rob will definitely have to see what information he wants to reveal in that Game 1, and Circuitry is definitely a Pokemon on the rise. We've seen it quite a lot here this weekend.
Yeah, definitely. Circuitry, we already saw, for example, the 3-time world champion Ray Rizzo use that to pretty good success, beating Arash Ahmadi with it earlier. And yeah, also back when Barry Anderson was using that team, one of the very basic strategies that this team can really use is just set up Tailwind with Drifblim as soon as possible, then bring in the Circuitry, go for Tail Glow, and then just attack.
Exactly.
And while that might sound kind of easy, it's also very, very difficult to pull off, because if it doesn't work, then you'll just look like a total fool, because everything will just fall apart completely, because your Pokemon don't have the bulk to back things up. They can't really take hits so well, and so it's very, very important that, because every single turn with a team like that just really, really counts. For example, as we were I was just talking to Adrian from Germany, who said that he was using a more bulky and defensive team because he felt like even if he made a mistake, he still had room to come back with that. With a team like Rob's, that's probably not the case.
I mean, Rob here has opted to bring that Cortana and Smeargle as his lead for this Game 1, and Stephen has opted for the Tapu Koko and the Cortana. So both Cortanas on the field here, and Smeargle is out up front. It can be getting up to all sorts of shenanigans with Fake Out or Follow Me. Tapu Koko, however, is going to retreat for Stephen, and he's instead going to bring his Alolan Guardian, the Tapu Lele, to the field, bringing the Psychic Surge. Psychic Terrain will be on the field, preventing any priority that Smeargle could do, which is what it went for. It went for the Fake Out, but the Misty Terrain, the Psychic Terrain will prevent that, as Sacred Sword instead gets to come off onto Rob's Cortana, doing a huge amount of damage, but I believe it's going to retaliate with an all-out pummeling from this Cortana. Do you think it's going into the opposing Cortana on the field?
Yeah, that definitely has to be into the Cortana, and yeah, Rob Smeargle really might feel this is a little bit unfair. First of all, there was this Tapu Koko with the Electric Terrain, so I can't really use Spore, and then he switches into Tapu Lele, which blocks the Fake Out, so this Smeargle really not doing too much, and that will be interesting over the course of the series, seeing as to whether the Smeargle will make an appearance again. But now we're seeing the Focus Sash activate on Steven's Cortana, surviving the all-out pummeling here.
That's a really good bit of information for Rob going into the next stages of this game, knowing that Cortana does have the Focus Slash. We've also seen the all-out pummeling there from Cortana, such a powerful Z-move coming off something like Sacred Sword, and unfortunately the Z-move just wasn't enough to pick up the KO thanks to that Focus Sash.
Yeah, certainly, and now the question is, with Tapu Lele just switching in like that, is this potentially a Choice Scarf variant? Because that then would be able to outspeed the Cortana and, for example, also bypass a potential Follow Me from the Smeargle with Dazzling Gleam. So Rob really has to think about what he wants to do here, because usually with a team like his, he cannot afford to lose a Pokemon unless he also gets something in return. And just losing Cortana here to Dazzling Gleam, that definitely wouldn't really accomplish too much. So yeah, let's see whether he decides to just try and expect this Tapu Lele to be an offensive variant, but without the focus, without the Choice Scarf, and that is what he does. Just staying in there, attacking his opponent's Cortana, which he also had to be worried about outspeeding his own Cortana. But yeah, getting the Beast Boost in the process and getting the first KO here.
Exactly, goes for the Leaf Blade into the opposing Cortana, does pick up the KO. However, that Tapu Lele is going to retaliate with a Psychic Z move coming off here. Is going to be the Shattered Psyche, possibly going into that Kartana maybe thinking it was going to protect or switch out and just wants to try and bypass it, but it's actually going into the Smeargle instead. So Smeargle here going to take a Z move. I mean, this is going to be so powerful, and it takes it right down to its focus dash.
Yeah, so unlike Steven's Kartana, of course, Rob can't really afford to put the focus attention on his Kartana because he wants to run Smeargle as well on his team. So instead, though, we're now seeing the Spore after that Tapu Lele revealed to be faster than the Smeargle on Rob's end. So, of course, in Rob's ideal world, he would have preferred his own Smeargle to outpace the Tapu Lele and put it to sleep before it can attack. That did not happen, but still, it looks like now Rob really was able to get that KO here, and now has maybe a little bit more room to breathe. Though, with that Tapu Koko now switching in, yeah, now we're back in the mind games again, because of course Volt Switch or Dazzling Gleam are both very valid options, and depending on what type of attack the Tapu Koko is going to use, the Smeargle with some of its various supporting moves, either the White Guard or the Follow Me would be the preferred choice here.
Exactly, Smeargle would come out with any sort of trick up its sleeve here. Although Rob's Pokemon are both on low HP, he has got 2 more in the back. He could always switch it out and try and get himself in a more strategic position. Thus Smeargle, that we're feeling a little bit sorry for when Psychic Terrain came out to the field and prevented its fake out, it's managed to get its revenge on that Tapu Lele and has sent it to sleep with the Spore. However, Tapu Koko now back on the field, it's not going to be able to send anyone else to sleep while that is active. And Rob there, you can see the timer ticking down. He's really taking every second to think through his moves. Goes for the Follow Me though, however, with that Smeargle, going to redirect any single type attacks, and that's going to be a Volt Switch from the Tapu Koko. Will be enough to pick up the KO on Smeargle, and Tapu Koko will be going back to Steven, and I wonder who he'll be bringing in.
Yeah, no Dazzling Gleam here. That of course would have been the dream, getting 2 knockouts here, but Steven probably expected his opponent to not just let him grab 2 quick KOs, right? He has to have a plan against that, was probably what he was thinking to himself. And even though he now did only KO the Smeargle, now with switching in Arcanine, reducing Kartana's attack stats, so even with that Beast Boost, it does a lot of damage here, but won't be able to knock out the Tapu Lele just yet. So yeah, it's kind of a play where even the worst case, if that happens, you still get the KO, you still get an Arcanine against a Kartana, which isn't so bad.
No, of course, I mean, Kartana's not going to want to be facing down that Arcanine at all. The Leaf Blade does do a huge amount of damage on Tapu Lele, but it's not enough to pick up the KO, and it will continue to sleep for the rest of this turn. We just need to see now who Rob's going to bring in from the back. He's going to be revealing one of the Pokemon he's got there, and you know, he needs something to bring in here to counteract that Arcanine that's going to be heavily threatening the Kartana.
Yeah, so maybe actually it would have been better for Steven if his Tapu Lele got KO'd there, because a sleeping Pokemon that is slower than your opponent's usually really doesn't do too much for you, and if he managed to just get on the Tapu Koko again on his end, depending on whether or not Rob decided to bring his own Tapu Lele, then maybe that could have been favorable for him. But as things are, Rob will just switch in his Arcanine for free now and get off the Intimidate on his opponent's Arcanine, which probably won't really do too much. But yeah, it'll be tough for Steven to actually knock out that Arcanine, even though, yeah, because with the way he opted to switch up his team, usually players opt to use Tapu Fini in the Tapu Lele slot, so you have a little bit more coverage against Pokemon like Arcanine. But yeah, Steven did not really think that was necessary, and now has to come up with a way of dealing with that Arcanine.
Of course, I mean, the Arcanine here could easily get the KO on the Tapu Lele with something like a Flare Blitz, or even an Extreme Speed from this range could be enough to pick up the KO there. I mean, we will see the Kartana go for a Detector, going straight on the defensive, facing down that Arcanine, doesn't want to take any damage. But the opposing Tapu Lele does wake up, it fires off the Psychic, and it will be going into that Arcanine. Not going to be dealing as much damage in the Electric Terrain, but enough to take it down to below 50% HP. Arcanine will fire off a really powerful Flare that doesn't go for the opposing Arcanine, goes for that Tapu Lele, and it's enough to pick up the KO from it. It's just woken up and it's now going to have to leave the field and return to its trainer. The opposing Arcanine, however, on Steven's side does go for a Flare Blitz into that Kartana, but thankfully for Rob, who chose to Detect with it, it's not going to be taking any damage. Yeah,
and that wake up is really what Steven needed. Now, not only was he able to get off so much damage on Rob's Arcanine, he also now gets to switch into his Tapu Koko, and even though he's at a Pokemon deficit, it looks like with a Tapu Koko he has a lot of damage potential. He threatens to KO both the Kartana and the Arcanine, depending on where he wants to launch his Thunderbolt, and now it's really Rob who has to come up with a way of stopping that Tapu Koko. It doesn't look like he has a Pokemon that would be able to outspeed the Tapu Koko of his opponent, unless, of course, he had the circuitry or the Tapu Lele with a Choice Scarf in the back, since his last Pokemon wasn't revealed yet. But now this is really about maneuvering your last couple of Pokemon, as we were seeing Kartana and Arcanine both at kind of low health, and it's really, really important to now land those attacks. We're seeing a couple of protects here, and Sacred Sword from Cortana is coming out into Arcanine. So Rob really predicting that right, as Steven goes for a Flare Blitz into his opponent's Arcanine. So perfect play here coming out from Rob, getting off a lot of damage while not taking a single HP on its own.
Exactly, Rob's sort of really being the dominant force in that turn there, and as you said, he hasn't revealed his last Pokemon there. It's all about Rob now thinking about maybe the turns ahead and possibly seeing out the end game here. He needs to find a way to take down this Tapu Koko. If he's got that Xurkitree in the back, it's not going to be dealing, it's not going to be taking as much damage from Tapu Koko, but of course the electric terrain is still up. That's not something that anyone wants to be taking any damage from. But if he has his Tapu Lele in the back, it can come in, reset the terrain, and maybe fire off some powerful Psychics.
Yes, I think actually both of those Pokemon would pose a lot of trouble for Steven. So, however, as the longer Rob is able to hold that information back, the better it gets for him, because Steven really doesn't know, do I need to prioritize taking out the Cortana? Do I need to keep my Arcanine healthier than my Tapu Koko? And now that he got the KO now on his opponent's Cortana, but he will lose a lot of HP here on his Tapu Koko in return. And actually Tapu Koko able to hang in there, but with the berry activating just very, very barely, he has the exact HP number he needed to activate that berry, and that could be crucial depending on how much damage this Flare Blitz now would do.
Exactly, the Pinch Berry is such a popular item on Arcanine, and it just got him into the right amount of HP to be able to proc that. The opposing Arcanine goes for another Flare Blitz, not going to be dealing super effective damage and will take a little bit of recoil by itself. But I mean, taking down that Cortana I think was quite important there, but it does now give Rob the opportunity to bring in his Tapu Lele for free. So Tapu Lele is going to be on the field here for Rob, setting that Psychic Terrain up, going to be reducing the damage that Tapu Koko can deal out with its Thunderbolt, and it can fire off some really powerful Psychics back in return. And we also don't know its item, it could be Choice Scarf, and that would put Rob at such an advantage going into this turn.
Yeah, a lot of trainers opt to go with that Choice Scarf, but it could also in theory be one of the Z Crystals, but we have already seen Cortana use that all that pummeling. So now it's really up to Steven to try and come up with a way, but
the Psychic, and it goes off first, confirming that Choice Scarf. The Psychic goes into that Arcanine, does pick up the KO straight away. Tapu Koko going to fire off a Thunderbolt. It's going to go into that Arcanine, taking it down to only 9 HP. It is enough to survive, but Tapu Koko will KO itself with recoil from the Life Orb. I mean, that was just an incredible way to end game one. Such an explosive turn there. That Tapu Lele, good information being revealed there with the Choice Scarf, but it was enough. I think it was a good bit of information to give up so that he could clinch out this game one.
Yes, of course. I mean, he didn't really have too much of a choice, since with a Choice Scarf Pokemon, that's just how it is.
Exactly.
But yeah, Rob really planning ahead, and due to the fact that he had the information available to him, that he had that Choice Scarf Tapu Lele in the back, he knew that, okay, I just need to put a little bit of damage on the Arcanine, and then there was this one crucial turn where Tapu Koko for Steven protected, and Rob was able to get that Sacred Sword into his opponent's Arcanine without really being punished for that at all. And then he knew, okay, my Tapu Lele will be able to use Psychic to knock out both of my opponent's Pokemon one after another. And there wasn't really anything that Steven could have done at that point. So now, of course, also Steven will probably be thinking back to the turn where he decided to go for the Volt Switch instead of the Dazzling Gleam. He didn't even get confirmation as to whether his opponent had White Guard on his Smeargle, which is one of those things, really. If you're playing against Smeargle, sometimes it might be a little bit more rewarding to just go for the Dazzling Gleam, and then, hey, if your opponent does not have White Guard, then you just win the game on the spot, and if they have it, then at least, like, yeah, you have that information. But now Steven didn't get the information and he lost the game, so now there's still that mind game that will be up there, and yeah, Rob kind of pulling a bluff there potentially, or maybe he just has White Guard and just didn't use it. Yeah, that just happens if you have a Pokemon that can learn literally any move.
Exactly, Smeargle is just one of those tricky little Pokemon to face, but I do think you're right there. It was all about the mind game. Does he go for the Dazzling Gleam? Does he go for the single target move? And I think you sometimes do have to play to your best strategy, because your opponent can easily just think ahead that he's going to go for that. Oh no, he's going to think that I know he's going to go for it, and then adapt accordingly. So we will be jumping into game 2 here with Rob having taken game 1. And just to recap on the teams briefly, Rob has got Smeargle, Tapu Lele, Arcanine, Cortana, Drifblim, and Xurkitree, whereas Steven has got the Cortana, Porygon 2, Arcanine, Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, and Gigalith. So some Pokemon we didn't see at all in this game. We didn't see that Xurkitree come out and try and set up some tail glows, and we didn't see the Gigalith bringing its sand to the field. But I mean, knowing now that that Smeargle does have Focus Sash.
And look at Steven's face.
Oh, he's focused.
He's staring down his opponent. He knows that he really wants this. but Rob doesn't really want to go and play the game, so Steven also starts to look. Rob's
just looking down. He's like, I'm not gonna play this staring competition with you. I might lose this one. It might put him off.
Whoever blinks first loses or something like that, maybe. I don't know.
That's how we play Pokemon, right? We will be jumping straight into this game too. Steven will be leading his Kartana and Tapu Koko, whereas Rob has brought his Arcanine teamed up with that Xurkitree, who is going to appreciate the electric terrain going across the field right now.
Yeah, Xurkitree really a very strong Pokemon going up against Tapu Koko, even though typing-wise, yeah, they don't really match up that well. I mean, electric against electric isn't super effective, but yeah, Xurkitree able to use the boost that Tapu Koko provides, and you know, you gotta think in a way, with Tapu Koko having access to such a strong ability as Electric Surge, of course, its special attack has to be a little lower to keep it in check, right? But for Xurkitree, that doesn't apply.
Definitely
its special
not.
attack is so enormous, and yeah, then being boosted by the Electric Surge, yeah, just turns Xurkitree into an even scarier weapon there.
It really does. It goes for Protect though on this turn, going on the defensive. Arcanine, however, will take a Volt Switch from that Tapu Koko. It's going to do huge damage with the Life Orb and the Electric Terrain combined, but Tapu Koko will go back to Steven, and it'll be interesting to see which Pokemon he's going to bring in here. He's got to bring in something that's going to threaten that Arcanine that threatens his Kartana so heavily, and it will be the Tapu Lele. So us just talking about this boost that Xurkitree's going to get from the Electric Terrain isn't happening anymore at the moment. It's going to be the Psychic Terrain as Kartana goes for a Leaf Blade into Xurkitree's Protect. Arcanine, however, revealing Bulldoze.
Okay, so I was ready. I was on the edge of my seat to try and criticize Rob's play because Xurkitree didn't really have too much to worry about. We've already got confirmation that this Kartana has a Focus Sash, so there's no Bloom Doom coming out of it.
Nope.
The Tapu Koko of his opponent, yeah, of course, Dazzling Gleam does a little bit of damage, but since Rob's Arcanine already got the Intimidate on his opponent's Kartana, that Xurkitree was kind of safe there and could have just gone for any type of attack. Instead, though, opted to Protect, and I was already like, oh, what is he doing?
What's going on?
Of course, with Bulldoze, that makes a lot of sense because now Xurkitree, depending on how these Pokemon are trained, will probably be faster than any of Steven's Pokemon that he has out on the field right now, and now he can really, yeah, go for an attack kind of freely, but he doesn't have to take any damage in return.
Exactly, he can go for a free attack, or he could maybe use this opportunity to use that Tail Glow, predicting that Steven might want to switch out a Pokemon and reset their speed stats. He does actually switch out his Kartana, wants to reset the Intimidate that it had earlier, and obviously the speed drop from Bulldoze, and brings in the Arcanine. Tapu Lele as well leaves the field. It's a double switch from Steven.
And the terrain is right back.
It is. He brings that Tapu Koko in. This could almost backfire, bringing the Xurkitree that boost that it might need. And I can't wait to see what Rob is going to come out with here. He goes for the Flare Blitz, so going straight on the offensive here. It will go into that Tapu Koko slot and do a huge amount of damage. Going to take a little bit of recoil, not enough to proc any items, but it's a Thunderbolt
into the Tapu Koko as well.
Doubling into that slot, and it's enough to pick up the KO.
Yeah, wow, that Thunderbolt is so powerful. That would have done so much damage on its own, but of course with its ally, with the Arcanine's Flare Blitz, that's an easy knockout here, and then also gaining the Beast Boost, so now Xurkitree doesn't...
even more threatening.
Yeah, it doesn't even have to worry about the Electric Terrain being up, so even if Steven switched in his Tapu Lele now, and now, yeah, we get into the weird situation where Arcanine always... where, of course, all the attention is drawn into the Xurkitree because that's the threat at the moment, of course, right? But what if Rob just went for a Protect with Xurkitree and another Bulldoze? Then I think the game is essentially over if, say, Steven doubled up into the Xurkitree. So Steven has to be very, very careful not to let this happen, to keep the Xurkitree in check while at the same time also going after the Arcanine. And I'm not sure if he still has all the resources that he needs for this, while Rob still has all his 4 Pokemon. He could even decide to switch out the Xurkitree since he made that clever play of just protecting Xurkitree in the first turn. He didn't want to take any damage, even though he knew that he could have traded, and that's really, really well played
but
there.
Instead, we're going to see the helping hand come out from its buddy Arcanine onto that Xurkitree, and the opposing Arcanine does exactly the same. Arcanine's here clapping their opponents on.
And Steven isn't sure about whether this will KO or not.
Kartana goes for a Leaf Blade into the Xurkitree. Is it going to be enough? It lives on 3
HP!
Oh, that is incredible. It lives on 3 HP, manages to eat the berry. And oh my gosh, I mean, you see our players' reactions there. That was electric. The auditorium here went crazy
and
as
there is the
Xurkitree gets to do a Thunderbolt into Arcanine, picks up the KO. Marcus, that was absolutely crazy. That was amazing.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I'm not even sure if that Xurkitree needed the helping hand to get the KO on the Arcanine. But Rob really just going all out there, probably expecting the Kartana of his opponent to protect, but Steven kind of made the right play, I guess, even though it didn't work out. He of course wasn't really sure how exactly things would work out in terms of damage calculation, but decided to risk it. There was also the chance for a critical hit, of course, with Leaf Blade having a higher chance for that. But in the end, yeah, all his prayers didn't do too much. Exactly, and Xurkitree in the end is able to take that attack, heal back 50% of its health, and yeah, Steven only down to his last 2 Pokemon remaining.
That was an absolutely incredible turn. So explosive, so much damage came off there. I mean, I hope you guys at home watching the stream could feel the electricity going on there. No pun intended from the circuitry there. But I mean, it's got a +2 Beast Boost now. It's in such a dominant position. And like that Arcanine, its buddy Pokemon they're using Helping Hand just really came through for it. And I'm not too sure what Steven can do now to counteract it. I mean, he has to take down that circuitry, but if it protects and Arcanine's able to get off some damage into that Kartana, you never know what could happen. Kartana, however, will be detecting and not doing any damage this turn. As Tapu Lele goes for a Psychic, it will be going into the circuitry, and in the Psychic terrain, it will be enough to pick up the KO this time, but I think circuitry has more than done its job for Rob.
I think there might have actually been an opportunity for Steven to go for a double knockout here with Leaf Blade into the circuitry and Psychic into the Arcanine, if that Leaf Blade was enough to get the knockout on the circuitry. Yeah, it definitely would have been close there, but I think that might have been a good chance here for Steven to try and do something, because now seeing as Tapu Lele from Rob switches in, which has this Choice Scarf, Kartana just protected, so will be vulnerable to a Psychic or maybe even that Hidden Power Fire that we see some trainers tack onto their Tapu Lele that have that Choice Scarf item, and I think yeah, that could just be too much for Steven to handle here.
Of course, it's the Choice Scarf on that Tapu Lele is just going to be such a threat. He goes for the double attack, doesn't get it, and Tapu Lele will go for the Hidden Power, as you said there, Marcus. Looks like Hidden Power fires straight into that Kartana, and it will be enough to pick up the KO, and then Steven only has his Tapu Lele left. Arcanine will go for a powerful Flare Blitz. Not sure how much damage this will do, but we've seen the handshake come out from the players. It is enough to pick up the KO, and Rob will take this game too and advance into round 9.
And Steven Mayer, one of the reigning players in the US, one of the really highest championship counts in the country over there. I think he definitely has over 500 championship points up to this point of the season, already qualified for the Pokemon World Championships, but now is out here of the tournament by the hands of Rob from the Netherlands, who keeps his dream alive and has to win the last round to advance to tomorrow's competition.
That was just absolutely incredible play, and of course Rob from the Netherlands here in Europe, he's going to be fighting to see if the title can be brought back to Europe for the European International Championships. But I mean, I need to calm down after that turn. That was incredible. Both Pokemon going for Helping Hand. And then you knew the Kartana was going to go first. Is it going to be enough? And it could always have had that critical hit chance. And it lived on 3. That's just incredible.
Yeah, of course, sometimes it's really those nuances that decide between winning or losing a game. Both of those trainers also opting to use very similar Pokemon, but then using them in a very different fashion. For example, you could see that with the Tapu Lele. And then, really the Smeargle being, in the first game at least, adding some diversity to what Rob could offer. And then in the second game, though, he proved that he didn't really have to rely on that Smeargle, but he could also just do it with plain power from that circuitry.
I mean, that was just an absolutely electric game, and it was phenomenal to see players from both, America and Europe here playing together in the knockout stages. And unfortunately, one player does have to go into X3, but they can still play out the last round of the tournament and still sort of go with that X3 record, which is still an incredible achievement here with 9 rounds of Swiss. I mean, it's a long day to endure.
Same shoes as Rob, who will now, who was the winner of the previous set that we watched. And after what was going on there with Arash and Davide, that's really easy to forget. But I'm sure that Adam is able to remind us a little bit of what happened there.
Guys, I am joined by Rob, winner of the first portion of this long slog. You've got one more round to go. You've had a nice long break. You got to join us for some of Arash's game. But how are you feeling coming into the last round?
I feel really good at the moment. I didn't start so hot, but I feel really good. And my last few rounds all have been going really well, so I know I'm feeling good for my last round now.
What's the definition of not starting so hot? Does that mean you went 0-2 and clawed it back, or
No, not exactly. I went 1-1. So that's not a great start when you still have 7 rounds to go. So.
Yeah, it's a tough old slog. You've obviously got one more. Right. How are you feeling coming into it? Feeling pretty good after that one? I mean, Steven's well known from where I'm from now, America. Did you feel confident going into that matchup, or not so much?
It was really scary, because I played Steven actually at Worlds before, and that set was really, really close. And so I was kind of scared going into the matchup. But I think I knew a bit about how he played, so I think I could use that to my advantage, and yeah, it worked.
So what was your read on how Steven plays? You say you had knowledge. Is it like he's an aggressive player, he's a defensive player? What was the kind of mindset you took coming into that game?
Like I know he plays really smartly. Like he's not gonna go for the most obvious plays, because he knows better. So I think in order to beat him, I sometimes have to go for more unpredictable stuff and see what happens.
So would you describe just going for it with all-out pummeling on the Kartana unpredictable? Is that your definition?
My thought process there was this Coco wasn't going to do too much. I knew his Kartana was Sash from Worlds. Right. So my thought process was if I fake out and all-out pummeling, that would kill the Kartana immediately turn 1. And that would give me already an advantage. But then he switched into Lele, which was a good play. But yeah.
Well, you still clutched out 2-0. How are you feeling about your team selection? Obviously, you've played with it for 7 rounds now, 8 rounds now. Are you feeling you made the right call at the beginning of the day?
At the beginning, no. But I'm starting to feel good about it again. Yeah, I think it's a strong team. It's inspired by Bas Anderson's team. I've been doing really well on ladder. I've topped the ladder with it. So yeah, I know it's a good team, but I still have to play really well as well.
Yeah. Well, you obviously have one more round left. Good luck in that. I don't say this to everyone, but you are my favourite. So I'd like to see you win in the last round. We'll throw it back over to our casters on the desk who are going to give us a little more rundown. Obviously, maybe think back after that riot they watched with Arash to get to this game.
Yeah, and thanks a lot, of course, to both Rob and Adam. And right as we kicked it over to the interview, Lou was actually admitting to me that she couldn't really remember what was going on in that set at all. And I really have to say, it was so much going on in Arash set. And let's take a second again to appreciate what Rob also did with its Smeargle, the Kartana, and the circuitry. Now also confirming our suggestions that Barry Anderson was the one who inspired him to use that team. And it would be cool to see what he can do tomorrow potentially. But yeah, as we were saying, there's still one more round for him to win. And the thing it's so upsetting with a 6-2 record. It's such a good record, right? But if you lose the last round, then it's only a 6-3. I mean, it's still positive, it's still good, but just not good enough to advance to the second day of competition. And so, it's really that last round that it's going to be maybe the deciding factor on whether players like Rob will, at the end of the tournament, be like, hey, yeah, I made the right choice, or my team was bad, the weather was bad, that's why I lost. Or
he said he didn't seem to like his team too much at the beginning of the day, was maybe doubting his choice, but by the end of it, and as you can see due to his record, I think he's really well versed with it now. And